This is Weirdly Enough, your regular podcast for strange stories and amazing facts, delivered straight to your favorite podcast directory and at weirdlyenough.com. Now, here are your hosts, Andy and Len.
Yes, welcome to the Weirdly Enough podcast. Remember, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcast to Weirdly Enough so that you never miss an episode. You get them when they drop every Monday, and then we have our mini episode every Friday as well. Do subscribe, do like us, please leave a review if you can. It helps us a lot, and it's good to know and good to get feedback from people. Also, if you want to feedback to us as well, podcast at weirdlyenough.com. We have an overwhelming amount of messages to our inbox, and we thank everybody very, very much for that. I hope you all had a good Guy Fawkes night if you do celebrate that in your part of the world. November the 5th. We're getting on into November now, and it is getting cooler. It's getting dark in the evenings. It's getting cooler. It's getting on for winter. I've got Len with me today. We're going to be talking about Paul McCartney. The Paul is dead thing. Paul is dead.
It's a bit of a weird one.
So they think the conspiracy theory is that Paul McCartney died in a car accident in 1966, was it?
Yep.
Yeah, and there's been an imposter, a fake Paul.
Often known as Fall.
Fake Paul.
Now, some people go very far down the rabbit hole, and they think there's been several different people who claim to have been Paul.
Okay.
At different moments. But should we launch on that?
It's a bit like the kind of Saddam Hussein body doubles
yes.
used to get, yeah.
There's actually a good film. It wasn't about Saddam Hussein, but it was a film with a guy who... It was a real life story.
Right.
Of a guy who was a body double of Uday Hussein, which was, I think, was Saddam's eldest son. But anyway, we're getting off topic. Shall we start with a quote?
Is it from Ringo Starr?
It is, yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
I'm warning you of peace and love. I'm warning people with peace and love, Brian. And a quick quote. Ringo Starr in 2011 said, this is a real quote, "I think it's people on the outside who perceive Paul as thinking he's the only one left. Actually, it's me. I'm the last remaining Beatle." You all know that the only person around this table who can go is me. I was in the biggest rock and roll band in the history of music. I am the last remaining Beatle.
Ah, so he said this back when? 2011?
2011.
Yeah.
A quick quote from Paul McCartney. "All our messages were subliminal." Now, the saga begins. This is actually, again, I timed this on purpose because we're coming up on an anniversary.
I think, people look back at the Beatles and this whole thing about all the subliminal messages and all these messages. Yeah. At the time, they were a bit of take that.
See, they changed radically.
Yeah.
They started off as basically a boy band,
but
they got very freaky towards the end of they abruptly changed.
Yes.
And it was all round about the time they stopped touring live and became very studio based, and they completely changed their thing. But there's all kinds of conspiracy theories, but to be honest, we would not have the time to go into that because this isn't even going to be the whole Paul is dead, because it's just a vast rabbit hole. But we'll get into a wee introduction today. The Paul is Dead saga, which is known as PID, starts with a car crash on the bleak morning of Wednesday, 9th of November, 1966. So we're timing this for an anniversary.
So yeah, this podcast going out on the 7th.
Yeah.
So the anniversary will be Wednesday.
So coincidentally, it's also a Wednesday.
Ah.
Spooky.
Yeah.
McCartney, who was only 24 at the time, got into an argument with the rest of the Beatles during an all-night recording session in the studio. The story goes at approximately 5 a.m. Now, by the way, can I just preface all of what I'm about to say with allegedly?
Okay, yes.
Because we want to keep the lawyers off our backs.
Stories. Yes, these are all just
These
ideas.
are all just ideas. So, approximately 5 a.m, Paul stormed off in his Aston Martin convertible and was involved in a freak accident either in London or on the M1.
Now, did this happen?
Allegedly.
Oh, right.
But I think the car crash did happen. The car crash did happen. Yeah. But in this story, he died. It was a Wednesday, and the lyric "Wednesday morning papers didn't come" in Lady Madonna is taken by the PID. I call it the PID or the PID researchers, and you know what I mean, because Paul's dead, it's going to be a bit long-winded. Researchers as a reference to the cover-up and press blackout that was arranged by the Secret Unknowns.
Oh, the Secret Unknowns. I think we've covered them before.
Who controlled the Beatles, because we need to keep on the right side of the Secret Unknowns.
But in all fairness, if the accident happened at 5 a.m, the newspapers would have been printed already.
True. By coincidence, 9th of November 1966 is the date that John Lennon first met Yoko Ono. And this is regarded by many die-hard Beatles fans as the beginning of the end, and could be regarded as a sort of symbolic death.
Yes. Okay.
9th of November is a date with a very, very ominous history. There's been a lot of really dark and sinister things that have happened on the 9th of November. Some of which include Jack the Ripper.
It's that old 911 thing. We talked about this a few weeks ago.
It's all about numbers, mate.
Yeah.
It's all about the numbers. Jack the Ripper murdered his last victim, Mary Kelly, on Friday, 9th of November 1888, 9/11/88, in the East End of London.
Right.
And on Friday, 9th of November 1923, Hitler mounted the failed beer hall putsch in Munich. And other strange and sinister things happened in this early 9/11. The story is that the Beatles management went into panic mode, fearing mass suicides amongst fanatical Beatles fans, and of course the end of their golden egg, or your golden goose that laid the golden egg.
Well, I think that's probably more the idea than the mass suicides.
I don't know. People, you say, you would say that, but I mean, do you remember your man from, was it Zayn What's-His-Face from that boy band? He resigned from a boy band, and people on social media were like threatening suicide. Right. It was like, what's the name of that boy? It was one of those boy bands, and
One Direction.
One Direction. People went hysterical over that, and he didn't even die.
Yeah.
He just retired from the band, and you got to remember, you know, I mean, people back in the day were literally wetting themselves at concerts. I mean, if you ever see the footage of Beatles concerts, people went absolutely crazy. Because you have to remember as well, this is like, they were kind of like the first of an era. Yeah. Because the only people really before the Beatles, I suppose maybe Elvis. Yeah. You know, so this was the early days, and people did get. So I think people could have, you know, crazy stuff could have happened. But anyway, the management got together with elements of British intelligence to collide in the replacement of Paul with a suitable double, a foil or fake Paul. And the idea is that the deep state would be worried that they'd lose a formidable soft power cultural force, as the UK was shifting away from the old days of empire into more of a sort of cultural, economic kind of direction. You know,
so they didn't want to lose this big cultural icon.
Exactly, yeah, because it's part of the, you know, the British Empire. You know, it's like in the old days you would have sent on the redcoats. Yeah. But in the new times, he sent on the bands.
Well, there must be a lot more evidence for how people have put together all this. So can you tell us about some of that then?
Tons of it. This is just some of it. There's a wealth of evidence. It includes, but it's not limited to, some of the following. The experimental track Revolution No. 9 from the White Album is regarded by critics as the Beatles' most obscure recording. Some paid believers believe they hear the sound of a fiery car crash and someone screaming, "Let me out!" Also, Revolution No. 9, is that a reference to the 9th of November? I think we maybe alluded to that in backmasking as well. Okay. Because it all sort of overlaps. Yeah.
A few weeks ago we had the backmasking episode. We'll link to that.
It all links. I'm So Tired from 1968's The White Album features John Lennon mumbling at the end. And when played backwards, some hear the words, "Paul is dead, man. Miss him, miss him." I Am the Walrus has the line, "Man, you've been a naughty boy. You let your face grow long." Now, a lot of researchers have noticed that after 1966, McCartney's face seemed to be thinner and longer. Okay. The Eggman lyric is supposed to be a reference to Humpty Dumpty, who, like Paul, cracked his head open. I Am the Walrus was inspired by the 19th century English author and occultist Lewis Carroll and his poem Jabberwocky. And here's a quote from Alice through the Looking Glass. Alice puzzled over this for some time, but at last a bright thought struck her. Why, it's a looking glass book, of course, and if I hold it up to the glass, the words will all go the right way again. Backmasking. Reversal. And that's the thing in occultism. Yeah. About speech being reversed or writing being reversed. Yeah. So that's Lewis Carroll freeing like an occult reference into Alice in Wonderland. Right. So the rabbit hole gets very, very deep at this point. And in fact, rabbit hole is a reference to Alice in Wonderland, so yeah. This, according to the PID researchers, adds further evidence to reversing Beatles recording to find hidden messages. Paul he's a bit like Donald Trump. Have you ever heard of Donald Trump checking into hotels with the name John Barron?
John Barron?
Barron.
Barron?
John
right,
Barron.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's maybe what he named his kid after Baron Trump.
Yeah.
But yeah, he used to come. I don't know why he did that. It was kind of just Donald Trump being weird. But he'd check into the hotel and call himself was John Barron.
Right. Okay.
Weird. But anyway, Paul McCartney yesterday then, and he used to call himself Ian Lacamo.
Ian Lacamo.
Right. Which apparently sounds like Paul McCartney been set in reverse. In the song Glass Onion, Lennon sings, "Looking for a glass onion, I told you about the walrus and me, man. You know where as close as can be, man. Well, there's another clue for you all. The walrus was Paul."
Yeah.
Some have said that this is a reference to a Nordic belief that the walrus is a sign of death, whilst a glass onion is said to be a nickname for the transparent corner knob of a coffin. The song Nowhere Man is supposed to be a maudlin reference to Paul's corpse state. He's a real nowhere man sitting in his nowhere land, making of his nowhere plans for nobody. And the John Lennon song How Do You Sleep contains the lyric, "Them freaks was right when they said you were dead. The one mistake you made was in your head." The lyric in Hello Goodbye from 67, "You say goodbye, I say hello," is Paul saying goodbye to the real McCartney and introducing himself as the new one. John Lennon can be heard muttering, "I buried Paul" at the end of Strawberry Fields Forever. Many PID believers have pointed to what they consider to be his very strange reaction to news of the death of John Lennon in 1980. And you can look us up on YouTube. It's a very famous clip. Whenever John Lennon was shot, Paul was doorstepped by the media and interviewed in the street, and his reaction is really bizarre. It's like he kind of doesn't care, and he appears to be very nuts, and he's chewing gum, and they're like asking him, the journalists asking him what do you think about his long-term creative partner and friend, and he just sort of shrugs his shoulders and says, "Yeah, it's a real drag, man.
It's a real drag."
And he doesn't seem to be that. It's like, you know, it's like somebody just said, "Oh, the boss has been cancelled."
Yeah, that's a real.
You know what I mean? It's gonna be lead, sort of way, you know.
That's heavy, man.
PID researchers said this ties in with the claim that Lennon and Paul were never able to get along.
Right.
Lennon and Paul, I should say. Because he was mates with the real Paul, but this new character, he didn't really get on with him, you know.
Okay.
Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. On the back cover, Paul is wearing an arm patch with what appeared to be the letters OPD, which apparently is UK police jargon for officially pronounced dead.
Right, okay.
And if you hold a mirror horizontally across the words Lonely Hearts in the front cover, on the bass drum, or the bass drum, with the reflective part of the mirror pointing away, the letters in both the mirror and the album collectively spell out 111 by equals he die, he/die, and the slash resembles an upward arrow which points at Paul.
Yeah.
The phrase has been claimed to be marking out the date of the alleged death. The 1 and 1 makes 11, and the 1 and X equals 9 in Roman numerals. Together these form 11-9 or 9-11 reverse UK style. And the big one that always comes up is Billy Shears. And this was William Shepherd Shears Campbell, who won a Paul McCartney lookalike competition that was set by the Beatles official magazine in the 1960s. And this guy Campbell was from Edinburgh, and it's claimed that he was actually the fall. In 2009, American author and researcher Thomas E. Harriott wrote and published the memoirs of Billy Shears.
Yeah.
And allegedly this is the memoir of the man he claimed to be Paul, and you can get it on Amazon, I think, can't you?
See, there's a whole website, billyshears.com.
Oh, there you go.
Paul is Dead story that I've never heard before there, and that is all the evidence of it. Loads of books.
Is it expensive? I mean, is it wildly expensive to buy, or?
No, there's all ebooks. Kindle, £8.
Because if
they've got like 5 books out.
Jeez, I didn't know there's 5. I thought there was only 1.
The memoirs of Billy Shears.
Billy Shears Acoustical Decoding. Good lord.
Right.
Billy's back. So yeah, I might revisit this at some point in the future, in which case I might purchase one of the Billy Shears books. The book was released on the 9th of September 2009, the 9th of the 9th of 09, and this was the same one on which Apple in the US released the back catalogue of Beatles albums in new digitally remastered CD form.
Yeah.
And there's a bizarre code in the book, and this is really, really weird. Apparently the first letter in every other line combines to spell secret messages, which are revealed in the sister book, Billy Shears Acoustical Decoding, which I believe is on Amazon as well. And the book has 66 chapters, and it's 66 pages long. And there's some weird McCartney quotes, such as "I'm not him, I'm some guy in a fictitious band. There are 2 Paul McCartneys. In a way, I think of Paul McCartney as him. I do wake up some mornings and think, Jesus Christ, am I really that guy that is in the same body as I'm inhabiting? I've learned to compartmentalise. There's me and there's famous him. I don't want to sound schizophrenic, but probably I'm 2 people.
Yeah.
I've always had this thing of him and me. He goes on stage, he's famous, and then me. I'm just some kid from Liverpool. Occasionally I stop and think, I'm Paul McCartney. Fucking hell, that is a total freak out. Or fucking hell, it's a total freak out. He was talking about the song yesterday, and he said, I dreamed it. I didn't believe it was mine, really. I didn't even write it, really, in a way. And then he talks about the identity of this character, Sergeant Pepper, from Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. We were kind of experimenting with anything. I'd written the title song and put to the guys that what we should do, we could make this record now under another persona, kind of like hiding behind a pseudonym.
So what about Paul's wives or ex-wives?
Heather Mills.
Yeah.
Heather Mills McCartney. Who's a divisive figure, it would be fair enough to say.
Yes, I think so.
Heather Mills, who's Paul's second wife, has also made some very strange remarks. During her she had a very acrimonious breakup with Paul McCartney, as you recall. She did an interview with US TV. At one point of the interview, she says directly to the camera, and she looks right at the camera, right at the audience, and she says, "You know why I've left you? Protect me and I'll say nothing."
Alright.
And then the presenter quizzes her. It's just like, what are you on about? And she goes on to say, "Something so awful happened. Someone I've loved for a long time, I found out had betrayed me immensely. I don't mean infidelity or anything like that. Like, beyond belief. I have to protect myself. People don't want to know what the truth is because they could never ever handle it. They'd be too devastated." And then the interviewer asked her, "Knowing what you know now about Paul, would you have married him in the first place?" And she replies, "Never."
Never?
Interview with ITV, which I think was maybe with Holly Willoughby and your man.
Okay.
But it might have been with Madeley, I can't remember exactly, but it was with ITV anyway. But again, she looks directly at the camera in the interview, and she made the following statement: "I have a box of evidence that's going to a certain person should anything happen to me. So if you top me off, it's still going to go to that certain person and the truth will come out. There was so much fear from a certain party of the truth coming out that lots of things have been put out and done. So the police come round and said, you've had serious death threats from an underground movement."
Right.
And this is on daytime ITV. Pretty scary. Now there's allegedly some scientific evidence. In August 2009, there's an Italian magazine called Wired, which ran an article focusing on the findings of 2 Italian forensic experts, Francesco Gavazzani and Gabriella Carzelli. I'm mangling this. They planned to put out their original aim was to put this to bed. Yeah. It says, "Oh, this is madness. This is absurd." So they did a biomedical analysis of Paul pre and post 1966.
So DNA is this or something?
Well, it was more kind of scholarship and stuff like that.
From photographs?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So it was photographic analysis. So they were debunkers. They were debunking.
Yeah. Okay.
They're fact checking.
Yes.
But it all went a bit pie-tongue. The key findings that he actually does look like 2 different people.
Right.
Pre and post 66. Suddenly changing. The front curvature of the jaw between photos pre and post 66 is different. There's evidence of cosmetic surgery around the area of the eyes. The line separating Paul's lips is much wider, and they think this might be the reason why Paul suddenly grew a moustache in 1966 in order to hide it.
Yeah.
The ear shape is different and the teeth are different.
Right.
To add to the weirdness, McCartney appeared in this is you can actually look us up on YouTube on the David Letterman show.
Yeah.
On the exact same date that the Italian Wired magazine ran the story, where the forensics experts revealed the results of these findings. This was 15th of July 2009.
Yeah.
And there's a quote here from hugequestions.com. "Therefore, if the conspiracy theories are false, i.e. if the Paul McCartney that we see today with a large palate is the original Paul McCartney with a small palate, then Paul went through some very serious dental surgeries and he would have had to have suffered for a long time, and it would have affected his voice. The more logical conclusion is that the Paul McCartney of today is a substitute, and that Paul went through a much simpler dental operation to make one of his teeth crooked, like the original Paul." There's a very strange incident. that happened in January 1980 when McCartney was held in custody for 9 days whilst on a tour of Japan. A customs officer had found some marijuana in his luggage.
Oh dear.
There is a claim that his fingerprints were taken and they did not match the prints that were held on record.
Right.
So the guy that was being pulled for the wacky backy was not actually Paul McCartney, but he was claimed to be him. Well, I'm sure maybe this was when he was with Wings in 1980.
Did you mention the cover of Abbey Road? Where
I didn't, actually.
Yeah, that's the one that I always go to. Or if you look at the cover of Abbey Road, they all have shoes on apart from Paul McCartney.
Why is he being singled out?
Yeah.
Because you might remove your shoes when you're brown bread.
Yes.
But anyway, we'll return to this another day because this is down the first bit of the rabbit hole. I want to go back to this at some point in the future. But if I do that, I'll definitely, before that as research, I'll get that book by Billy Shears or by Thomas E. Harriot. There's a couple of good websites that might be pertinent. The BeatlesBible.com have an article called Paul is Dead. There's a website, I forget her name, I should remember her name, but it's supposed to be quite good. A blog called plasticmaca.blogspot.uk, and obviously you can get Memoirs of Billy Shears by Thomas E. Harriot on Amazon. So, but we'll definitely return to that in the near future, but that's a good introduction to the PID theory.
Yeah, so tell us what you think. Was Paul McCartney replaced in 1966? Is the original Paul McCartney dead? Email podcast@weirdlyenough.com or contact us through social media. We're on Facebook, just search for Weirdly Enough Podcast. We're on Twitter @WeirdlyEnoughPC. Thanks very much for listening. We'll be back in a moment or two with our weird shorts. Thanks for coming across Weirdly Enough and downloading our episode to listen to. Remember, you can get us on YouTube as well. I think we have a YouTube handle or something it's called now, so you can find us easily enough. But just search for Weirdly Enough on YouTube, Weirdly Enough Podcast. Search for that anywhere you do your searching, and you will find our podcasts. Listen to it in whatever format you can. So I've got some rather upsetting news to start this week's Weird Shorts.
What's that?
The world's dirtiest man has died. He was 94.
I believe he died after he had a bath.
He died after carers persuaded him to wash, which is a bit of a conspiracy, I'm thinking.
There you go. He would have been better off staying filthy, I think.
The world's dirtiest man, unsurprisingly, is a hermit. His name is Amu Haji. I hope I'm saying that right. He's often called Uncle Haji by local Iranians. Haji believed that washing would bring him bad luck and might even kill him. So it's no surprise that after being persuaded to have a shower, he died a few months later. There you are. He was well known for his unusual lifestyle, which included eating raw roadkill, drinking from puddles, and when he ran out of tobacco, he'd fill his pipe with dried animal excrement.
It sounds like Aleister Crowley when he did the Mystery of Filth.
Yes. I think this guy is doing a full investigation into filth. One famous photograph of the hermit from 2018 showed him smoking 4 cigarettes at once while covered in soot. But even though he lived a rather strange lifestyle, doctors who tested him concluded that he was perfectly healthy. Dr. Gholam Reza Molavi, I hope I'm saying that right, from the School of Public Health in Tehran, said that all they found was trichinosis parasitic infection, which caused no symptoms. Symptomless. So he was doing very well. On several occasions, people did try to forcibly bathe him, including a group of local youths. Let's go bathe the hermit, eh? Who tried to put him in a bath. And on one occasion, local men bundled him into a car to take him away to wash him, but he managed to jump out.
Why did they do that though? I mean, it's none of their business. If he wants to be filthy, it's up to him.
Yeah.
You know, people need to just leave people alone.
Leave him alone.
Amu
was very intelligent. He was well known for having historical discussions with people. He had a conversation with somebody about the pros and cons of the French Revolution.
Well, there you go.
And also how the Russian Revolution had affected people. So there you go. And we're going over to Des Moines, I think it is, Idaho. Iowa, sorry. They have had to back off their claim that a wild mountain lion had been spotted when the beast turned out to be nothing more than a domestic cat. The police department had used social media to alert members of the public that a cougar had been spotted on surveillance footage in the city's east side, which featured a video showing a feline swaying its tail as it walked through grass. Officials told the public not to approach the creature and instead report any sightings on the Iowa Department of Natural Resources website. Both the police department and the Department of Natural Resources had to later make corrections, stating that the animal in question was actually a house cat. Vince Evelsizer from the DNR apologised on behalf of the department, saying that the error had occurred because the footage was grainy. Yeah, so there you are. It was just a cat. And some people have, I think, too much time on their hands, and this might definitely be the case with the owners of the One House Bakery in Benicia in California, who spent weeks moulding and baking and then assembling a Star Wars creation. Pan Solo is what the bakery has dubbed the 6-foot-tall bread creation, which shows the Star Wars character Han Solo apparently frozen in carbonite from the Empire Strikes Back movie. I don't know, I've never watched it, so apparently that happened. Mother and daughter team Catherine and Hanley Preven spent weeks baking and assembling the creation using 2 different types of dough and even wood. I think I might be cheating if they use wood.
I'd say it would be, yeah.
They worked on the creation at night when the bakery was closed, and Hanley said the bread was particularly meaningful because in January of last year she lost her sense of smell due to COVID. So, I don't get this. You need to create a Han Solo bread. Couldn't you just go and sniff an ordinary pan loaf, you know?
It seems a bit over the top.
Sense of smell back.
Do you know what's always confused me about Star Wars? You know the way they kind of like rebooted it?
Yeah.
It's really confusing the way they got the episodes, because
prequels and all this.
Yeah. I find it hard to kind of, because I think the old ones kind of start in the middle in the new sequence.
It's sort of they're like number 4 or something. Yeah,
and it's a weird. I always thought it was a weird show because I used to think it was science fiction, but it's not science fiction. It's actually fantasy, but with like trappings of kind of like space stuff.
Yeah,
because it's really kind of like. It's more like Lord of the Rings or something like that.
Yeah,
only just in space, or like Game of Thrones and space.
Yeah, it's a set in space. Wonder do they make sourdough in this place? I'm sure they do. They're sourdough.
What is the great fascination with sourdough?
I don't know.
It's like one of these. Do you know what really concerns me as well?
What?
It's kind of like this. If this isn't too tasteless a comparison, it's kind of like almost like a virus. Brioche buns. What's the fascination with brioche?
Brioche is quite nice.
Do you know what I object to though? You say when you get a burger in a posh place, 9 times out of 10 it seems to be brioche now, and I object to the slightly overly sweet quality, which I don't know if that's really a burger thing, because it's too much like cake. It's like it's like somebody stuck a beef burger between like bits of cake. It's kind of a bit wrong, like, you know.
Have you? What do they call it? There's people have made donut burgers. What? So it's a beef burger in a donut.
No.
Cronut, is it, or
that's
Bruna?
Awful. That's awful. I thought brioche was bad enough.
So this bread sculpture will be on display outside the bakery, which is about half an hour's drive north of San Francisco. I think it would be a bit like what Samuel Pepys said about Giant's Causeway: worth seeing, but not worth going to see. And finally. A New York mother has been arrested for allowing her 10-year-old son to get a large tattoo across his forearm, which was later spotted by a school employee who raised the alarm. Crystal Thomas was charged with endangering the welfare of a child and was booked on the misdemeanor charge before being released from custody. Only misdemeanor, there you are. The child was put into protective services. But what I don't understand is why the tattoo artist wasn't charged with something too. Apparently,
what age was the kid?
10.
And what was the tattoo?
His name, just in case he forgets it.
I don't know, but it seems a bit of an overreaction. I mean,
what?
To put him under like protective custody.
Well, you're not allowed to tattoo a child.
I suppose, yeah.
You're not allowed to stick needles in a child unless you're.
But how did that work? I mean, unless he looks a lot older than his age, he must have rocked up at the tattoo party.
Well, apparently the tattoo artist said the mother gave permission, so he thought it was all right. Which you'd think he'd kind of know the law.
Yeah.
You'd think he'd kind of know the law. Very odd. I got that from Smoking Gun. You ever seen that website?
What's Smoking Gun?
It's strange.
It sounds a bit like the Lone Gunman from
it's all
X-Files.
odd crimes, but they have it's quite worth going to look at a mugshots gallery.
Oh right,
of people, and most of them are on meth or something like that.
Oh yes,
we shouldn't laugh. It's all these people with staring eyes.
Yeah.
There's one guy with like a load of cocaine coming out of his nose in the mugshot. Just wonder why he was arrested for. I know there's like celebrity mugshots and stuff. It's a Smoking Gun. Yeah, it's worth a bit of a look. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. I was about to sign off the way I sign off my other little pod show, my other little presentation show, so I'll not do that. Thanks.
What show is this? Is that some sort of secret show?
I sign off with it and I say, have a very profitable week.
Oh, right, yes.
It's something completely different, yeah.
Is that your side hustle?
It's not really a side hustle.
Is this an income stream?
It's an income stream, yes. We'll not talk about that, though. Thank you very much for listening. We'll be back again very soon.
Thanks for listening to Weirdly Enough. Remember to subscribe to get the latest edition as soon as it drops. And don't forget to leave a review. Email us about anything we've discussed or with your own weird tale at podcast@weirdlyenough.com.